Hello everyone, welcome to Court with Krissy. It's the day of jury trial. Defendant wants to fire her attorney. Obviously, the jury trial goes on. This is like a 90-minute video. But then, during voir dire, she might fall asleep. And then, the prosecutor thinks she might be under the influence. Does the rest get better? Watch and find out. I hope you like it. Court with Krissy is now in session.
On the record in the Misty Sherman cases, those are case numbers 25 CRB 115 and 116. You're Ms. Sherman, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
The record should reflect that Ms. Sherman is present in the courtroom with her counsel, Ms. Diatley. We have Mrs. Moore here on behalf of the state of Ohio. These matters have been are scheduled for a trial by jury this morning. Mrs. Moore, is the state ready to proceed?
we are.
And Ms. Diatley, is the defense ready to proceed?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
And why is that?
Your Honor, I would be asking for a continuance. I understand the court's objection to this. This was the third case that was set.
Never even asked for a continuance.
And the only previous continuance this case has had, because I had a conflict with a doctor's appointment, Mrs. Sherman wishes to fire counsel and obtain another counselor for
Well,
this case.
that request will be denied. The defendant's entitled to court-appointed counsel. She's not entitled to court-appointed counsel of her choosing. You want to continue, Ms. Diatley?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor, I do. I would be asking for one. I believe there are constitutional issues as well. Discovered those last night in doing additional case research. I would like to also litigate on those merits because I believe they are more legitimate.
And what is that?
Free speech, as well as there's a case from the 5th District that goes over similar issues. However, is different from this case in the nature of the threats as well as the underlying facts, I believe, between the Supreme Court case that I provided to Mrs. Moore this morning as well as that 5th District case that went up. The court could make a ruling at that point on whether or not the...
I'm assuming this is the one that involves the alleged postings to the social media?
Yes.
But not the thing at LMH?
Well, there is a alleged posting that goes with the LMH.
That that's not an allegation of violation in that
Well, she
LMH case.
posted about being at LMH, and did she make,
Well, the primary allegation about
Yes,
violation is
yes.
the being in proximity with the protected party.
yes.
Fine. So, which one's the one with the social media posting?
15.
All right. Do you have a position on the motion to continue that?
We're ready to go, Your Honor.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. These weren't consolidated.
Yeah, they were.
They're not. That's not reflected on the outside of my file, which is normally how that's reflected. But I will sever them if indeed they are. We will continue the 115, but the court will go forward on the 116 case.
And Your Honor, her last objection is that I did not obtain video from LMH.
Well,
I mean,
that's neither here nor there.
that's just be my innocence. I didn't even get out of my truck.
So we're continuing the 115, correct?
Yes.
I don't even understand none of this, man. Am I allowed to say something?
But we will be using her post where she talks about being at LMH.
Well, yeah, that's
My
obvious.
hand is dying. My hand was dying. Man. I don't even understand none of this, man.
All right. And she posted bond in that both of these cases, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
All righty. Bond will be continued as posted on the 115. We're prepared to go forward on the 116. I have a jury waiting in the hallway. Let's bring him in.
All right.
How will I even... So I get to the...
So, I know that Mrs. Moore has touched upon this. Is there ever anybody that has friends or family that's law enforcement? Do you think that, raise your hand if you think that that has led you to believe that most cops are good cops? No? You, sir? I'm sorry, I'm not as good with this chart as Mrs. Moore is. What's your name? Okay. And let's see. Do you have anybody in your family that's a police officer?
Good friend.
Good friend, okay. Do you think, based on your relationship to him, that you would be able to really scrutinize the testimony of a police officer?
I do.
Okay. All right. Has anybody here ever seen, there used to be like a meme that was a picture, and there's two people and they're looking down at the ground, and there's a 6 or there's a 9, and they're on opposite sides of it and they're arguing. Ma'am, you're shaking your head. Okay. So, do you think that perspective matters in determining credibility of testimony?
Now, on a more serious note, if you wish to stay and watch the trial, I would certainly encourage you to. If you do have a few things that you prefer to take care of, but you're intrigued about how this whole thing works or how the courts are run, let me assure you, when COVID hit, we basically shut this place down except for people who had business in the court, which is not good because the hallmark of accountability for us is our transparency. We're open to the public who can watch us at any time. Well, how did we maintain that when not letting anybody in? We have live streaming channels for each of our 3 courtrooms. So we're actually live streaming right now on YouTube. All you have to do is go to the court's website, lcmunicipalcourt.com. We have a link to each of the courtrooms. I have my own. Judge George has his own. Our magistrate upstairs has hers. You know what? We have like over 3,000 subscribers to our channel. I'm not entirely sure why, and I don't know how many we have to hit before we start getting paid as influencers, but I think we're getting close. But I will say this. I was walking down through the Home Depot a couple of weeks ago, and all of a sudden I heard somebody go, "Oh, Judge Stansberry!" And I turned around, and there was a couple there, and she said, "You don't know me?" And I said, "You're right, I don't." And it turns out she's a dedicated viewer. So if you want to watch, but you're going to take off today, by all means, look in on us sometime because you can see exactly how we operate. So with that, I'm going to get you guys out of here momentarily, but before you go, I'm going to have Ms. Kyle administer the oath to our juror. Okay, we're back on the record in 25 CRB 00116, State v. Misty Sherman. The defendant is present in the courtroom with her counsel. Mrs. Moore is here. The jury is not in the courtroom, coming back from our initial recess. Mrs. Moore, is the state ready to proceed, and is there anything it wishes to bring to the court's attention before we get underway?
No, Your Honor.
So you are ready to proceed, and you have nothing to bring to the court's attention?
I was concerned that the defendant was under the influence of something just by her general appearance, her falling asleep at the table. So that's what I wanted to bring to the court's attention during that time. I don't know if defense counsel has had an opportunity to speak with her to determine whether or not she's under the influence of something.
And the record should reflect that was broached at the bench during a sidebar conference. The court inquired of Ms. Diatley whether she was having any difficulty communicating with Ms. Sherman, and you have not, correct?
I have not.
All right.
I guess we should talk about our stipulation too.
Yeah. Ms. Diatley, my understanding is that the defendant is willing to stipulate to the fact that, 1, there is in fact an active protection order, and 2, that the defendant was served. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And the state will accept that stipulation?
Yes.
I'll include that in the general jury instructions at the end, but you can certainly refer to it during your examination of the witnesses as well.
Okay.
And mention it to the jury that there is a, when you're doing that. Anything else on behalf of the state?
We would designate Officer Fumi as state witness.
Okay. Any objection to designating Officer Fumi?
No, Your Honor.
All right, he'll be so designated. Is there a motion for separation of witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Any objection, Mrs. Moore?
No.
All right, that'll be granted. Ms. Moffett, if you could make sure that the individuals who are waiting in the jury or witness room know that they're not to watch any of the proceedings on YouTube, that would be appreciated. Okay, Ms. Diatley, anything on behalf of the defendant before we bring in our jury?
No, Your Honor.
All right, very well. Let's bring him in. And the state will proceed first. Mrs. Moore?
Thank you. May I move the podium?
Oh, yes, you may.
Thank you.
Can we go ahead and reposition that?
If I don't knock it over, I get. You want to do with that wire? Okay, thank you. We're still in the morning. Good morning. First of all, thank you to those who maybe were excited about serving a jury. Sorry to those who maybe didn't want to. But again, thank you for your service here today. I hope it is at least a good experience for you, an interesting experience for you, and like I said, we couldn't do this without you. You've heard a little bit about this case through Voir. The defendant, Misty Sherman, is charged with, on January 22nd, 2025, recklessly violating the terms of a protection order or consent agreement issued by a court. We've talked a little bit about what civil protection orders are. And you will actually see the protection order issued in this matter. Now, both of us have, defense and myself, have agreed that the protection order was in place, that it was valid, and it was served upon Ms. Sherman. So you will not hear the testimony of that from the stand, but there is a stipulation. The judge will also be telling you that the order was valid, it was in place, and Ms. Sherman had been served with a copy of that order. Now, the allegations against Ms. Sherman start this way. Amy Watson, who is a cousin of Ms. Sherman, works at a place where she sometimes picks up clients, drops them off. On this particular day, she was at the Licking Memorial Hospital, ready there to pick up a client. And she was waiting by the front entrance for this client to come out. And she's in a red truck. And while she is sitting there, she observes Misty Sherman drive into the parking lot. She observes her park very close to her. She can see her in the driver's seat. She says that two people get out of the vehicle, and one actually waved to her when she came out, indicating that they saw her there. That she stayed in her vehicle, and Amy will testify that she kept looking over at her. Now, there is a part of the CPO that reads as follows, that you will have in front of you. The respondent shall stay away from all protected persons named in this order and not be present within 500 feet of any protected person, wherever those protected persons may be found, or any place respondent knows or should know the protected persons are likely to be, even with a protected person's permission. If respondent accidentally comes in contact with protected persons in a public or private place, respondent must depart immediately. This order includes encounters on public and private roads, highways, and thoroughfares. So the order reads that if she comes into contact, or she ends up 500 feet within a protected party, which Amy Watson is a protected party on this order, that she is required to leave immediately. You will hear testimony from Amy today that she called the police. Once she observed her there in the parking lot, she wasn't leaving. That she asked for an officer to be sent to the location. That she waited and waited and waited for approximately 12 minutes. She'll testify that her client came out of the hospital and the police were still not there. So she told the police, listen, I'm going to get a picture and I'm going to leave. I'm not going to wait for the officer. And they said, just make a report later then. So she drives around to where the defendant is parked, takes a picture of her vehicle, and goes to leave. When she goes to leave, you will hear testimony and you'll actually see a video that can you order the defendant not to make smirking or comments or laughs during my testimony?
Ms. Dialli, if you
My
could just
opening.
remind your client of proper courtroom decorum, please.
You will hear testimony and you will see a video that Ms. Watson took on the day in question that shows the defendant, Misty Watson, actually pulling out and getting behind her vehicle and following her out of LMH. She then follows her down Main Street and then does eventually pull off. You will hear testimony from Officer Fumi, who took a report from Ms. Watson and then tried to make contact with Ms. Sherman on the date in question. He eventually did have a phone conversation with her. And what he will tell you that she told him is that when she pulled into LMH, she saw Amy's red truck, but she wasn't sure if it was her exact truck or a similar one. Now, I want to remind you something. My burden of proof is that I have to prove she was reckless, not knowingly, that she was reckless, that she disregarded a known risk that Amy was in that location. So she told Officer Fumi she saw Amy's red truck. Wasn't sure if that was her or not, but she stayed at the location rather than leave. She sat in her car. She saw Amy's vehicle come around. And of course, Amy's going to testify that she knew I was there. She kept making eye contact with me. They know each other. They're relatives. And then she's going to tell you that she went to leave. But what she did was get right behind the protected party's truck and follow her out of the hospital and down a portion of Main Street. That's not staying away. That's actually getting closer to the protected party. You will see a video image that Amy took of the car behind her. You will see a video image that she took of her following her down Main Street. And you will also see that after Miss Sherman had contact with the police, she made a post on Facebook about being at LMH and the incident. And there's a part in there that I want you to pay particular attention to. She states in there that no one is going to dictate her life. No one is going to tell her where she can be, what she's going to do. And she made that clear to the victim that day. Now remember, some of you may be sitting there thinking, okay, well, she didn't say anything to her. She didn't get out of her truck. You know, she just got behind her. And with those facts alone, maybe that seems harmless to you. But there was a protection order issued by the court, and there are rules given by the court. This order means nothing if it's not followed to the letter. This order protects no one if it's not followed to the letter. I always like to use an example. You know, somebody receiving flowers, that may seem like a good thing. That may seem like, oh, that's a very nice thing. They didn't mean any harm. They were just sending flowers. But if that person is someone that you sought a protection order against and you're protected from, there's a different perception on those flowers, isn't there? And I want you to keep that in mind. It is our job as the state to enforce orders of the court to the letter. If we let things slide and say, well, you know, she was, then they don't matter. We need to enforce these to the letter that they are written. And so I would ask at the end of the testimony here today that you enter a guilty finding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Moore. And Ms. Daly, you may proceed.
All right. So Mrs. Moore just gave you her theory of the case today. I hope you were really listening to what she was saying, because ultimately that's her theory of the case. That's what she has to prove, okay? And so obviously Ms. Sherman and I see things differently than what Mrs. Moore presented today. I believe she's going to put a copy of that, or I expect that she'll put a copy of the protection order in place so that you can read the terms of the protection order. I'm going to ask that you read those terms and pay attention to those terms, because as Ms. Moore mentioned, there is a provision that if, by happenstance, Newark is a small town, you end up in the same location, Miss Sherman here is expected to leave immediately. Now, it's not when the protected party notices that Miss Sherman is there. It's when Miss Sherman notices that that party is there. She's to leave. She left. Now, there's also a lot of underlying relationships in this case between the protected parties on the protection order and Mrs. Sherman. There's a long history there. They are related. The actual person who obtained the order, you'll see the name on it, like I
Your
said.
Honor, I'm gonna object. Come here, Fridge.
Please do.
All right. So, let's see. Okay. So, where we're at. You're going to get a copy of the protection order. You'll be able to see that. Okay? The state brought up again that what's in the order as far as if she notices she's there, she leaves. I'm sorry, I'll clear that up. Ms. Sherman notices that the protected party is there, that she leaves immediately. Okay? And again, I just wanted to point out that that is when Mrs. Sherman notices, not the protected party, because those could be two separate times. Additionally, I'm just asking that you pay close attention to the testimony of the witnesses and on cross-examination on questions relating to the motive that that the protected party had to maybe stretch the truth. Lastly, I want you to keep in mind what videos are played for you. It is the state's burden to prove this. There's a video of the hospital parking lot. Independent of the protected party's video, independent of statements and admissions from Mrs. Sherman, that could have cleared this matter up pretty quickly. See if you get that video.
All right, very well. Will the council be using the podium to examine the witnesses?
I'm going to be playing video, so I would prefer to see the table, if that's okay.
That's fine. Ms. Diatley, were you going to be using the podium to examine witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, let's go ahead and stow that then. And while the bailiff's doing that, please call your first witness.
Thank you. I'd call Amy Watson to the stand.
Very well, thank you. Please come forward to be sworn.
You solemnly swear to you affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury. I do. Please have a seat. For the record, give your name and spell your last name.
Amy Watson, W-A-T-S-O-N.
All right, you may inquire.
Thank you. Ms. Watson, do you know the defendant, Misty Sherman?
Yes, I do.
And how are you related to Ms. Sherman?
She's my cousin.
Okay. And prior to getting married, was your last name Sherman?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when did you get married?
May 11th last year.
Okay. Are you aware of a protection order in which you are a protected party?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as nice exhibit number 1. May I approach?
You may.
Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
CPO protection
Okay.
for 5 years.
And as protected party on there, I see Amy Sherman.
Correct.
Is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you could speak up a little bit so everybody could hear you, that would be great. Now, Ms. Watson, where are you employed?
Lighthouse Behavioral Health Outpatient Addiction.
Okay, remember to keep your voice up. And how long have you been employed there?
2 years.
All right, and what do you do there?
Recovery housing specialist. Also case management.
Okay. And were you so employed there on January 22nd, 2025?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, as part of your duties with behavioral, is it Lifehouse?
Yes.
Do you drive pick up clients, drive clients to appointments, etc.
Yes.
And on this date in particular, were you waiting for a client or picking up a client?
I was waiting for a client to be discharged from the
Okay, and
hospital.
where were they being discharged from?
Licking Memorial.
Okay. And you, I'm gonna can I have you draw
Sure.
the parking lot? I
gonna be
I know where there used to be a
silly
board.
looking.
There's a board. Thank you, just, I'm gonna have her just facing the jury. Now, I know you may not be an artist.
I'm not.
I didn't see that as part of your job description. But could you draw on here the entrance at LMH where you were parked? And later on where you observed the defendant parked?
I'll do it.
Okay, and just describe what we're looking at here.
So this is the main entrance of the Memorial. Here's the turnaround
Here, just step to the side and keep your voice up.
where you can wait for people to come in and out. This right here takes you to the main door where the traffic light is. These are the parking spaces. I was here. She was parking right first parking spot.
And what were you driving? Thank you. And what were you driving on that day?
I was driving a red Ford F-150.
Okay, you can have it. Go ahead, have it. Is that a car that is your normal vehicle?
Yes.
How long have you had that vehicle?
About 5 months.
And while you were sitting there waiting on your client, when did you observe, how long were you there before you observed Miss Sherman?
About 15, 20 minutes.
Okay. And can you tell the jury what you observed?
As I was sitting there waiting on my client to be discharged, she had pulled in and pulled into the first parking spot. So I looked around like for the Licking Memorial Police Department, but I couldn't find them. So that's when I called Newark Police because of the CPO.
Okay. So you called the Newark Police Department, correct?
Yes,
And how long did you wait for someone to show up?
12 minutes.
And during that time, what did you observe?
She just glanced over a few times where I was at, and then she didn't move. She stayed in the parking spot. And then I noticed a man, Johnny Richards, get out of her car. And he walked over to the entrance, the main entrance, and went in.
Okay. Did that individual do anything as he walked by you?
He waved.
Okay. How familiar were you with her vehicle?
Very familiar. I mean, I know what it is.
Okay. So how long did you wait there for the police to arrive?
I waited 12 minutes, and then my client was discharged. So I called him back, and I asked him to just document it, that I was going to leave.
Okay. What did you do then?
So then they asked me if I could come down and fill out a report. I stated after I got off work I would do that. So then me and my client left. As we pulled out, as we were pulling out, she backs out. I get to the traffic light, she's behind me.
Okay. Did you do anything before leaving?
Oh yeah, when I talked to the police department, I asked them if they wanted me to verify that it was her. They said yes, please get a picture of the license plate. So I did so.
How far do you approximate you were sitting from?
From the parking spot,
Yeah.
it was within the 500 feet.
Okay. So you drove past her vehicle and took a photograph?
Yes. And that's on the call that I made to the police department.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 3 and 4. May I approach?
You may.
Do you recognize these photographs?
Yes, ma'am.
What are they?
Her vehicle.
Okay. And when were those photographs taken?
As I was leaving.
Okay. And why did you do that?
They wanted me to make sure that I could verify that it was actually her, to get her
Was
plate.
it indeed her vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
And are they a fair and accurate depiction of how her vehicle appeared on the day in question?
Yes.
Now, were you able to see her in the driver's seat?
Yes.
And how would you explain where she was sitting versus where you were?
She was in the driver's seat on her phone.
Okay, and which way was she parked?
She was, she was facing, not the traffic light. She was facing the opposite way. She had pulled in, she didn't back in.
Okay. And can you look at those pictures and describe where she was in reference to that?
So she was, I could see right here. Do you want me to show them or?
Yeah.
So she was sitting right here. I could see from where I was sitting straight down to her. Literally looking right at her.
Okay. Now, there's cars parked on the other side of Ms. Sherman in that photograph, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And can you explain on here where those vehicles were versus where her car was?
Those were literally in the same parking lot. I don't know how to explain it.
Were there cars parked in front of her?
There was one in front of her, this one, and then
Okay.
it appears like another one. No, one. And then that one was empty at one time, but that one had pulled in.
Okay. So,
It was just her at first, and then this one had pulled in, as you can see in this picture. There was no car there.
all right, can you draw on the board which direction she was facing and where those other vehicles were? Just draw which way she was facing, where the other vehicles were in reference to her.
She was front of her vehicle. The rear. But they were all facing the same way.
Okay, were there cars in front of her vehicle?
Not when she first pulled in, there was only her, and then the other one pulled in.
You gotta speak up louder so they can hear you.
Not first, there was only her. And
Okay.
in the second picture, you can see where the other one pulled in.
Were there parking on the other side of her?
There was one. And then
But was
her-
there a row of parking on the front
Oh,
of her
in
vehicle?
front of her?
Yes.
Yes, it goes multiple.
Yes, please.
This is a whole parking lot.
Okay.
So this is how you get out.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. So, go ahead and have a seat. So you pulled out and you went behind her and took photographs.
Correct.
And then, how many times did you go around her vehicle?
Just once.
And was your client with you that day?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you went out, how did you get back to the traffic light?
Through the road, the entranceway, and then.
Go ahead and draw. Sorry, I keep having you get up and get
That's
down.
okay. So, there's also parking behind her. I guess I should do that. So then I went this way, took the picture, and then went back out the road to the traffic light.
Okay.
This is West Main.
And how many times did you do that? How many times did you circle around?
Just once.
Just once. Okay. Go ahead and have a seat. I think I'm done officially. Now, when you were exiting, when did you see Ms. Sherman pull out?
Right as I started to go around, she was backing out.
Did you see her backing out in
Yes.
her vehicle?
Mhm.
And what happened next?
That's when I put my phone on video and started to record because she was following me.
Okay. I'm going to show a video, Carmen. This disc has been marked as plaintiff's exhibit number 9.
Thank you. 9.
Yes. I'm just going to show a portion real quick. Do you recognize this video?
Yes.
And what is it?
That's the back of my truck.
It's the back of your truck?
Yeah. The bed.
And is this the video that you were taking on the day in question?
Correct.
All right. Trying to stop it.
There you go. That's how you send it.
Stop.
There you go. That's how you send it.
There we go. What are we seeing right now?
Her behind me and then Licking Memorial. I was right at the traffic light.
Okay, and that is the vehicle driven by Ms. Sherman.
Correct.
What happened next?
So I turned left onto West Main Street and when the light turned green and then she followed me out. So then I recorded her again.
What are we looking at here?
Her following me.
Okay, and how long did she stay behind you?
Just probably about 2 minutes at the most, maybe a minute and a half. She turned right onto a side road.
So, after that, what did you do next in reference to recording?
Went down after I got off work and we called the police department and filed a statement.
Okay. Did you provide the photographs to the officers as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the videos that we have here?
Correct.
Were you made aware of a posting that Ms. Sherman made shortly after this incident?
Yes.
How were you made aware of it?
My aunt screenshot it and sent it to me.
Okay. And did you also share that with the officers at the scene?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as place exhibit 5, 6, and 7, and 8. May I approach?
You may.
I have continuing permission to approach.
You do.
Thank you. Do you recognize those?
I sure do.
And what are those?
They're not named, but they're basically towards me because I'm the only person that has a CPO against her, stating that I'm only breathing because
Okay.
she's allowing me.
Do you recognize those? That's what I'm just
Oh,
wanting to
yes,
ask.
absolutely.
Yeah. And are those the screenshots that were sent to you after this incident occurred?
Yes, ma'am.
And are there portions of those messages that talk about LMH that you observed?
Yes,
And at the top of those screenshots, there's the name Misty Sherman.
correct.
Does this reference the Misty Sherman in this manner?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm going to particularly refer to on here, Mark, because
These been marked for identification, Mrs. Moore.
they have, Your Honor. We're going to look at let's see. Yeah. We're going to look at the second picture on plaintiff's exhibit number 6. Is there a portion there that reads, and excuse my language, bitch, just know you are breathing, that's all the fuck you need to motherfucking know you're breathing, bitch. Nothing about me or what I'm doing or what the fuck time I'm doing it will never allow you to be able to dictate my day or night. Is that in that message?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and does that sound like an accurate reading of that portion?
Yes.
I can just have a minute, Your Honor.
You may.
And where this occurred, that's in the city of Newark, Licking County, state of Ohio.
Yes.
And any doubt in your mind that that person there was indeed Misty Sherman?
No.
And is she in the courtroom here today?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me where she's seated, what she is wearing?
She's seated right over there with her attorney, and she's wearing a tie-dyed shirt.
Thank you. Let the record reflect that the witness identified the defendant.
Any objection, Ms. Yadley?
No, Your Honor.
The record will so reflect.
I have no further questions at this time.
Very well. Cross-examination.
It's true that on the date of this offense, there was an aunt that was in the hospital.
Correct. Well, no, she's not an aunt, not by blood. No.
Okay. There's a. And it's your testimony that there was someone that got out of the car and waved at you, correct?
Correct.
Did he go back? He didn't go back to the car though, correct?
Correct. He did not.
He went into the hospital,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And it's your testimony that she turned off at the first street, correct, after leaving the parking lot?
When we turned on left onto West Main?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's correct that your testimony that you've had the vehicle for 5 months?
Correct.
And it's your testimony that you only went around once to take the photo, is that correct?
Correct.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Redirect, I should say.
Nothing further at this time. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Watson, you may step down. Thank you very much. Is this witness excused?
No.
All right. Please return to the witness room. Your next witness, Mrs. Moore?
Thank you. I would call Officer Fumi to the stand.
Officer, please come forward and be sworn.
Sure. Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear or do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please have a seat, sir. For the record, give your name and spell your last name.
Ryan Fumi, F-U-M-I,
And the address of your precinct.
Newark Police Department. Oh, address?
Yes.
39 South 4th Street, Newark, Ohio, 43055.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You may inquire.
Thank you. Officer Fumi, where are you employed?
Newark Division of Police?
And were you so employed on January 22nd, 2025?
Yes.
And on that date, did you receive a call to take a report regarding a possible violation of a civil protection order?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you do that day?
I responded to Amy Watson's house, and she filed a report that earlier that day she was at Licking Memorial Hospital, and that Misty Sherman, who she has a protection order against, was there and had violated the order.
Okay. So after talking with Amy Watson, what did you do?
After talking with her, I collected the videos and photos that she had, and then I went to where Misty Sherman was living and tried to make contact with her there. She wasn't there, so I left my phone number, my work cell with a occupant of that home, and just told them to have Misty call me, and she ended up calling me later that night.
Okay. And how did she identify herself on the phone? How did you know that was Amy Sherman?
Well,
Or
she-
sorry, excuse me, Misty Sherman.
Well, she had called me, and she had told me that it was Misty, and immediately when we began the conversation, she knew why I was calling her, so she kind of initiated the conversation about why I was calling, which led me to believe that it was obviously her.
Okay. And how did she know why you were calling? What did she say?
She had told me that she knew that Amy would be calling because she admitted that obviously she had been at the hospital earlier, and she had seen Amy. I told Misty that, I got one side of the story, I just wanted to get her side and see what she had to say.
And what did she tell you?
She told me that she was at the hospital visiting a relative, that she pulled into the hospital, she parked in a parking spot. She had said that she had no idea Amy was there until Amy began driving around her vehicle. And at that point, and taking photos, or she had seen her on her phone. And then at that point, she said that as soon as she saw her circling her, that she had backed out, and that she had left. And she said that it just so happened that Amy had been in front of her, and they were both leaving the entrance and exit at the same time. And as they did that, she was subsequently behind Amy, and that they pulled onto West Main Street together. That they were going the same direction. That she, in her words, or I guess inadvertently followed her because they were going the same direction, and then at some point had pulled off on a side street sometime down West Main Street.
Okay. And do you recall anything in your statement about her seeing Amy's red truck but didn't know if it was hers or not?
Yeah, she said that when she had pulled in initially, that she had seen a red truck that was very similar to Amy's, but wasn't 100% certain that it was her.
And upon seeing that truck, did she advise whether or not she remained at the hospital?
Yeah, she pulled into the parking spot at that point.
Okay. But that was when she first got there.
Correct.
And then, now when you pull out of LMH, how many different directions are you able to drive?
Probably 3. I think it's a 4-way intersection. I think it goes on to 35th. There's just a big entrance and exit, and you can either make a left to go east on West Main Street, you can make a right to go west on West Main Street, or I think you can go forward to 35th, I believe, but don't quote me on that.
Okay. So multiple ways you could leave the hospital.
Correct.
Are there also different exits at the hospital?
Yes, there's the ER entrance exit. You could go out. I don't know if there's one on the right side. I do know there's a loop around from the back, but as far as I've only been in 2 entrances, so I have the
Okay.
big main entrance and then the ER entrance.
Okay. But both a reasonable distance from each other?
Yes.
And what did you do after obtaining that information?
After that information, are you talking about speaking with Misty?
Did you speak with her again?
No, I
Okay.
didn't. No, I didn't.
All right. Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, Ms. Diatley, cross-examination?
Testify there's 2 entrances that you're aware of, is that correct?
That I'm aware of, yes, ma'am.
It's your testimony that when you first spoke with Ms. Sherman, she stated she was not aware that Amy was there. Her initial first statement was she was not aware that that Amy was there.
Yes.
Yes. And that she only became aware that Amy was there as she circled her around the parking lot taking photos and videos. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what she said.
And then she had told you as soon as she noticed that it was Amy after she was circling that she left. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't remember if her saying like as soon as she noticed, but she said right at the short time after that, or she had pulled out and she had left.
I just was trying to quote your testimony.
Yes, yes.
And again, Mrs. Sherman, on the initial phone call with you, stated that she was there to visit with a family member that was in the hospital.
Correct.
And again, she had stated that she had no idea that Amy was going to be there, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further on.
Redirect Ms. Moore.
Thank you. But isn't also true, she said as she parked, she saw a truck that looked like Amy's truck?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, I have no further questions.
Any recross?
No, Your Honor.
All right, officer, you may step down. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your next witness, Mrs. Moore?
I'd call Officer Rubio to the stand.
Very well.
Rubio,
What's his relation?
she collected these.
Officer, please come forward and be sworn.
You solemnly swear to you from the testimony you're about to give, so the truth will be the truth.
I do.
Please have a seat. For the record, give your name and spell your last name,
Officer Chelsea Rubio, RUB is in boy IO.
and the address of your precinct.
39 South 4th Street, Newark, Ohio, 43055.
Thank you.
You may inquire.
Thank you. Officer Rubio, where are you employed?
City of Newark Police.
And were you employed for them on or around January 22nd, around January 23rd of 2025?
Yes.
Okay. And on, around the 22nd, maybe the 23rd, did you respond to a phone call from an Amy Watson?
I responded to her address, yes.
Okay. And when you arrived there, why were you called to that house?
It was reference a follow-up for a CPO violation that happened I believe it was the night prior.
Okay. And what did she present to you?
Some text messages from Facebook that were sent to her referencing that incident at LMH from the night before.
Okay. And what did you do?
I spoke with her, took pictures of the text messages, and told her I would follow it up with the officer that took the initial report.
I'm going to show you what's been marked, plaintiff's exhibits 5, 7, 6, 7, 8. Do you recognize these photographs?
Yes.
Okay, and what are they?
They are the screenshots or text messages to her phone, reference the incident at LMH for the CPO violation.
Okay. And are those photographs a fair and accurate depiction of those messages as they appeared when you saw them on the date?
Yes.
And why did you collect them? Why did you feel like they were important?
I briefly knew the incident from the night before because I talked with Officer Fumi about it, and I felt it was important because she admits to being at LMH, and it was a CPO violation that she couldn't be around her.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Cross-examination, Ms. Diallo?
Ms. Rubio. It's your testimony that the messages were sent, text messages, sorry, we'll restart. I was trying to get that straight in my head. Mrs. Watson received a text message from a third party with screenshots of a Facebook post. Is that correct?
Correct, that's what I was told.
So at no point did Mrs. Sherman initiate contact by sending those directly to Miss Watson.
Not to my knowledge.
Nothing further.
Any redirect?
No, thank you.
All right, officer, you may step down. Thank you very much. Is this witness excused?
Yes.
Then you're free to go.
Thank you.
Your next witness, Mrs. Moore?
I have no further witnesses at this time, Your Honor. I would move for omission of...
Well, tell you what, counsel approach. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, we've been going a little over an hour now, but the state is conditionally rested its case. Ms. Diatley, does the defense wish to call any witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
All right, very well. So we've come to the end of the evidentiary portion of our trial. The only things that will be left to do before you begin your deliberations are closing arguments and also my final instructions. It's customary for me to give the attorneys a break before those closing arguments to organize their thoughts that they want to share with you. So we're going to take a 10-minute recess. We're going to call it 11:40, even though it's a little earlier than that. And we're going to reconvene at 11:50. If you come back early, just go directly into the jury room and keep the door closed. And with that, we'll take our final recess.
All rise.
Sorry.
Did the defense wish to call any witnesses or present any evidence?
Your Honor, this time, I was trying to discuss with Mrs. Sherman, was advising against her taking the stand.
I'm not taking this. I just want the videotape from LMH. It's gonna prove to
She-
everybody that she lied when she sat up there.
So, no witnesses?
She will not be taking the stand, Your Honor. She would like to express her frustration that the LMH video has not been obtained.
That's certainly something you can bring up in your closing argument, that there's no video from the actual scene other than what the complainant did. So, anything else before we bring in the jury, Ms. Diatley? No? All right, let's bring him in.
All rise for the jury.
All right, please be seated. And the record should reflect that the jury is now back in the courtroom. As I mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, the state has rested its case. Their exhibits have been admitted into evidence. You'll have those during your deliberations. The defense has rested its case as well. So all we have left are the closing arguments with the podium and also then final jury instructions. The state, having the burden of proof, will go first, and they do have the privilege of what's called a rebuttal argument after the defense makes its summation. Mrs. Moore, are you ready to proceed?
I am.
All right, as soon as we get that set up for you, you may go.
Again, thank you. We have gotten to the close of evidence today. I believe that the judge, as he stated, these usually get over within a day. So we have kept to our promise, and now we turn the case over to you. And again, on January 22nd, 2025, in the city of Newark, Licking County, state of Ohio, the defendant, Misty Sherman, is charged with violating a protection order, which reads that she did recklessly violate the terms of a protection order issued or consent agreement approved pursuant to section 2919.26 or 3113.31 of the revised code. So let's go over what the state has to prove to you. First of all, that it is agreed by both parties that there was a protection order in which Amy Watson was a protected party, and that the order was against Misty Sherman, and that she knew about it, she was served with that protection order, and it was valid and in effect on the date of the incident. That is not contested. What is contested is whether she violated that protection order. But I want you to remember what I said at the beginning. We don't have to prove that she was trying to violate the protection order. She knowingly was violating the protection order. We just have to prove that she was reckless in regard to violating that protection order. And the judge is going to read you a jury instruction, and it's going to say this. A person acts recklessly when, with heedless indifference to the consequences, she perversely disregards a known risk that her conduct is likely to cause a certain result or be of a certain nature. A person is reckless with respect to circumstances when, with heedless indifference to the consequences, she perversely disregards a known risk that such circumstances are likely to exist. Again, we don't have to prove she set out to violate that. But what we have to prove that she was reckless in her behavior, which resulted in a violation of that protection order. One, we all agree she knew she had the protection order and she knew what those terms were. That's stipulated too. And that you will have that protection order in front of you, which states, number 5, and the box is checked, that all protected persons named in this order, including Amy Watson, not be present within 500 feet of any protected persons wherever those protected persons may be found, or any place respondent knows or should know the protected persons are likely to be, even with a protected person's permission. If respondent accidentally comes into contact with protected persons in any public or private place, respondent must depart immediately. The order includes encounters on public and private roads, highways, and thoroughfares. You heard the testimony of Amy Watson today, and you've also heard statements that the defendant made to the officer. You heard statements that Amy was waiting for a client to come out of LMH when she observed the defendant's vehicle pull into a parking spot that she said was in a place where she could tell it was her, and she said she was glancing over at me from time to time. Amy called the police because she said she was within 500 feet of me. That's a violation of the order. I'm going to call the police. And also remember that this is a civil protection order. She saw the person she's protected from too close to her. She calls the police. They don't come. Her client comes out. She decides at that point, I'm just going to leave, and tells them I'm going to get a picture, and then I'm going to leave and make a report later, which is what she did. It's exactly what she did. She states that she makes one lap around the defendant's vehicle, takes a picture, and then goes to exit down this traffic lane. Now remember that the defendant told Officer Fumi that she saw her circle her vehicle and that she observed her driving out. A couple things. He also said there are other ways to get out of this parking lot if it's your intention to leave. There's also the ER exit that could have been used. If you've ever been to LMH, it's a very large parking lot. There are other ways to avoid her vehicle. But I want you to look at that picture. At that time, as they're leaving the parking lot, she knows that is Amy. This was after she had driven around her vehicle and taken the pictures. She knew that was Amy. She knew there was a protection order. And look at her vehicle right behind the victim's vehicle. Now I anticipate that she's going to state, well, I was trying to leave. Your Honor, again, she's making statements while I'm doing the closing argument.
Ms. Diatley, if you could remind your client of proper courtroom performance.
She got directly behind the vehicle. The purpose of a protection order is to maintain distance and separation. She actually closed the gap, knowing that Amy was in that vehicle. And I want you to go back to the definition of reckless. She perversely disregards a known risk that her conduct is likely to cause a certain result or be of a certain nature. If you were in that red truck and the person behind you, you had a protection order against, what would you think? She disregarded that possibility. She actually closed the distance between the two of them right here. And then remember also what the officer said. As they were turning out of LMH, there were multiple ways in which she could go. Yes, she might have to drive a little extra to get to where she was going. She could have turned right. She could have gone straight. What does she do? She turns out and follows where Amy is going, knowing that Amy is in that vehicle. Reckless disregard for this order. Again, we only have to prove reckless, and I think that picture says it all right there. She knew Amy was in that red truck. She got that close to that red truck, knowingly got that close, and recklessly violated this order. As a result of that, I would ask for a guilty finding. Thank you.
Ms. Diatley, your summation?
Should be better. We're almost done. So, again, you're going to get the protection order. You're going to get the exhibits that have been submitted into evidence. Mrs. Moore read part of that order to you. That she, if they come into contact in a public space, she is to depart immediately. Now, what the state has submitted into evidence for you today is a video from the protected party, a photo from the protected party, screenshots of a Facebook post that were sent by a third party to the protected party, and the officer's testimony of a conversation that he had with Mrs. Sherman. Just want to highlight a few things in those pieces of testimony. First, Amy told the state and then confirmed it when I asked. She'd only had the truck for 5 months. You're going to get the protection order. You're going to be able to read the dates. Protection order has been in place since October 23rd, 2023. How is she to know that that's her truck? She said to the officer, "I noticed it was her when she continuously circled where I was parked and was taking a video and taking pictures." That is when Miss Sherman noticed that that was Amy. Or Mrs. Watson, I apologize. Mrs. Watson may have noticed Mrs. Sherman before Mrs. Sherman recognized her. But that's not the point. The point is, it's when they come into contact, when she notices her, notices Mrs. Watson. When Miss Sherman notices Mrs. Watson, she's to depart immediately. That's how she knows it's Amy's truck, by her circling in the parking lot. Again, you're going to get this Facebook post. Read it. She's consistent with what she said in the Facebook post to what she told the officer. He's trying to get both sides of the story, he testified. He wants to know what it is, know what happened from each perspective. Mrs. Sherman is adamant that Mrs. Watson continuously circled her vehicle taking photos and videos, and that is when she noticed that it was Mrs. Watson. Mrs. Watson only had the truck for 5 months. There was no evidence submitted that shows that she knew for certain that that was Mrs. Watson's truck. And again, as soon as she noticed, Mrs. Sherman noticed that it was Mrs. Watson, she followed the order. She departed immediately. Now, the officer testified that there are 2 entrances into LMH. That's the testimony that's on the record. That's the evidence that's been submitted before you. The ER entrance and the parking lot. Can you go out the ER entrance? Now, another thing is that Mrs. Watson states that there were 2 people that got out of Mrs. Sherman's truck. Again, that's the only evidence submitted of that. Mrs. Sherman has disputed that.
Objection, Your Honor. Ms. Sherman didn't testify. She cannot
It's
say
in the
what she said.
Facebook post.
Counsel has wide latitude in its in their closing arguments. You, as the jurors, will decide what is true and what is factual. You may continue, Ms. Diatley.
In the Facebook post, Mrs. Sherman is saying she parked at the hospital. She was trying to get on the Wi-Fi so that she could contact somebody. It's all laid out in there. And again, even if this proposed person existed and gets out of the truck and walks into the entrance where Mrs. Watson said that she was parked and they wave at her, that doesn't mean that she knew or noticed that that was Mrs. Watson sitting there. That person that walked past that truck might have. But again, you'll have Mrs. Sherman's post that says she couldn't connect to Wi-Fi. She didn't have any way to contact anybody. Mrs. Watson also testified that she was there for about 15 or 20 minutes when she called the police, waiting for that person that she was picking up. Again, she says she drove by one time. Mrs. Sherman was consistent in the message, in the Facebook post as well as her statements to the police, that she drove around multiple times. What would discredit Mrs. Sherman? The video from LMH showing that she somehow recognized that it was Mrs. Watson and continued to sit there. Now you see when she tried to comply with the order and leave immediately, she stopped in that. They're exiting the parking lot. She stops. Because where is she to go? At that point, the state wants to say it's a violation of her sitting there and being within that distance. Well, she didn't notice that she was there. And when she tried to leave, Mrs. Watson pulls out in front of her. Now again, what would the video from LMH show? If the officer wanted to get both sides of the story, she's consistent. She made a Facebook post about it. You're going to get to read that post. You heard the officer's testimony. The video from LMH would have cleared up exactly what went on and when somebody became aware of what. Again, Mrs. Moore read the instructions. You're going to get a written copy of those instructions. The term recklessly is going to be defined. Again, it's a known risk. Well, there was no way for her to know that she was going to be at that hospital. She went to the hospital, and again, it's in the Facebook post. It's in testimony today from both Mrs. Watson and the officer that she went there to visit a sick family member. She pulled into the space. What's in the Facebook post? She pulled into the space closest that she could get so that she could get Wi-Fi. That was her concern. So that she could contact somebody inside the hospital. So that they could come get her and take her in to see that person. That was her concern. She accidentally comes into contact with Mrs. Watson because Mrs. Watson was driving around 5 to 7 times trying to get a photo or a video to say, oh look, she's violating this order. As soon as she realizes that she sees Mrs. Watson as she's doing that, again, she follows the order. She departs immediately. Now, again, in the Facebook post as she's leaving, she says, Mrs. Watson, that's in front of her. She stops. She's got to leave. She's supposed to go out the ER entrance. I guess that's the proposed solution from the officer. That's the testimony, that there's 2 entrances in the hospital that he's aware of. Also stated by both Mrs. Sherman and Mrs. Watson, Mrs. Sherman was trying to get out of there, get back home. As she's far back, well, I believe this was the only video that was played. There's no video of how close she was. We're saying 500 feet. She turns off on the first street. Again, trying to depart immediately. I'd ask that you analyze the evidence, take into consideration everyone's testimony, read the protection order, read the Facebook post, and come to your own determination, which I believe it will be that she is not guilty.
All right, Mrs. Moore, your rebuttal?
Thank you. First of all, it is unknown whether there's even video from LMH. There's no one that testified that there were cameras pointing out there. And those videos, if they exist, can be subpoenaed by both parties. You know, I think defense is hanging her hat on the fact that what you are going to get is what I would describe as a rant. Somewhat not even lucid at times of the defendant. And in that rant, while she says, yeah, she circled me 4 or 5 times, you know, laughing, taking videos, I want you to remember that Amy was with a client on that day. She was in her professional capacity that day. Doesn't seem very common sense for someone to act like that when they have a client in their vehicle. Secondly, she testified from this stand here today under oath that she circled once. She took the pictures to document it, to report it later, which is exactly what she did. And she took this video. Now, defense wants you to believe that Amy was cutting her off and pulled out in front of her. Amy said, I went around her once, I went to leave, she pulled out and got behind me. That's what that shows. And there was video played as they went down West Main Street, which shows the defendant's vehicle behind her. But remember, she knows she has this protection order. She knows she has to maintain a distance. And she follows her out instead of going another way. She continuously and recklessly violates this order. And I wanted you to remember something else. She also told Officer Fumi that when she got in there, as soon as she got in there, she saw a truck that looked like Amy's. She was already on notice that that could be Amy. And then, at this time, she declared to the officer she knew it was Amy. At this time. And Amy said she was driving out when she got behind her. Did she put distance between them? She wants you to believe that she stopped and let her go. Did she stop and let her go? She put distance between them? No, she closed it. Again, recklessly disregarding a known risk. And then, instead of going the opposite direction, she continues and follows her. And that video was played. And you will have that back in the room. Again, these orders are a piece of paper. These orders are meant to protect people. If these orders are to have any force, they need to be followed to the letter, or they're no good. There can't be exceptions. And I submit to you that she did recklessly violate that protection order on this day. And I would ask for a guilty finding. Thank you.
Please be seated. And the record should reflect that the jury is now back in the courtroom. All 8 jurors are present. Juror number 1, it's my understanding that you were elected foreperson? Yes. And has the jury reached a unanimous verdict? We have. Okay, go ahead and hand the envelope to the bailiff, if you would, please. In the case of the State of Ohio versus Misty Sherman, on the charge of violation of protection order in violation of revised code section 2919.27, subsection A1, the verdict form reads as follows. We, the jury in this case, find the defendant, Misty M. Sherman, guilty of the offense charged in the complaint. It appears to have all 8 juror signatures as well as the 4 persons in the specified line. Ms. Diatley, did you wish to poll the jury?
No, Your Honor.
Very well. This time I'm going to have the bailiff escort the jury back into the jury room. I'll be in momentarily to debrief you and then excuse you. So with that, we'll take our recess.
All rise for the jury. And go back in there.
Given the nature of this protection order and the constant back and forth that has gone on in the family.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Diatley. I appreciate your comments. Ms. Sherman, you have a right to make a statement before I make any decisions about your sentence, but you're not required to. Is there anything you'd like to say, ma'am?
Yes, I just started a job. I just want to work my life. I don't want to be no burden on nobody. I don't want to mess with nobody. I just want to live my life. I don't want nobody to. I just want to live my life. I just got a job. My daughter just had a miscarriage. She never thought she was going to be able to get pregnant. It's just a lot of things that's going on right now. I just need you to have mercy on me.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Sherman. Ms. Moore, did the state wish to be heard regarding the matter of sentencing, and was Ms. Watson advised of her right to be present and to address the court before sentence was imposed?
Yes, Your Honor, she was advised of her right to be here. She chose to go home after the case had ended.
No, I didn't go home.
No.
Hold on.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Her recommendation was whatever the court sees fit. She also mentioned possible GPS. As the court knows, there's another case also pending right now involving the same parties. I actually had an opportunity while we were sitting here waiting for you to come back in to speak with her daughter. Lots of mental health issues she needs help with, drug and alcohol issues that need addressed. You know, she has an extensive record. I do agree there's been a bit of a lapse since her last conviction. But, you know, I also could see her spending some time in jail. I think the last time we were here, there was pretrial conference. We were talking about 90 days suspended probation with mental health assessment. I would also ask for a drug alcohol assessment, abide by terms of the CPO, and give probation the option to put a GPS monitor on her.
Okay, thank you. Well, you know, it's funny because when I was talking with the jurors, one of the jurors said, we were talking about sentencing since they weren't allowed to consider it, and one juror said, well, I would think this. Like I said, well, what would you do? And he said, well, I would probably impose a 90-day sentence and suspend it. And
Wow.
I asked him if he snuck in and got into the court's file, because I said that's exactly what I wrote down on my pretrial worksheet. Now, anybody who practices in this court more than once knows that the court endeavors to always be consistent with what it says it will do. Trial brings a little wrinkle into that because there may come into play some evidence that there are facts that the court wasn't aware of. This is not one of those cases. There were no surprises here in both a good and a bad way. So, you know, I don't know what the beef is. What I can tell you is this. I mean, the minute there was a protection order, that has to send off sirens and bells and whistles saying, wait a minute, this just got real. You got a court involved in your life. You said on your rants, nobody going to tell me what I'm going to do and where I can go. They are telling you what you can do and where you can go, and you have to listen to that, because if you don't, you're going to have to listen to guys like me sending you to jail, because I'm not going to send you to jail today, but if you don't back off and leave these people alone, just let me talk. You know, I got elected so I could talk without being interrupted.
I'm so sorry.
I don't think, you know, I was saying to the jurors, in my 30-plus year career in the criminal justice system, I've met very few truly evil people. You're obviously not a very evil person, but what I do find is people in bad situations who make bad choices, and in this particular case, I think you absolutely 100% let your emotions get the better of you. And I've always said, and Mrs. Moore will bear this out, and I'm sure Ms. Diatley's heard me say it, If every single person in this world exercised the 3-second rule, I'd be out of a job in a week. And the 3-second rule is if you're in a situation, before you say or do anything, wait 3 seconds and reevaluate. Is this going to make things better? Is it going to leave things the same, or is it going to make it worse? Unless it's going to make it better, shut up and don't do anything, all right? And so you will find yourself in a situation where you're going to have to make a decision about how to react. You cannot control how you feel. Nobody can control how they feel. You're expected to control how you react to how you feel, all right? And that's what I'll hold you accountable for, okay? So, let me write this out. Did she have, you never got arrested as a
There
result of
was,
this?
I believe it was 7 days.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Remember, we had the
Yeah,
letter out.
yeah, okay. So, let's see.
Oh, God.
Where's your job that you just got?
I was collision in an auto body shop on East Main Street.
Okay, and what are you going to be doing for them?
I clean up, I clean the shop up and I take care of his dog and anything that needs me to do, go to the Pete store. But I really, really wanted to ask, I enjoy driving and I know that she drives too, but I wanted to get a job with transit, helping people. I've worked for Lee County for 8.5 years, feeding, clothing the homeless, and I have my license, and I haven't had a job in 23 years.
I'm not going to put you in jail today, Ms. Sherman. The only reason you might end up doing jail time as a consequence of this conviction is if you don't follow the rules of probation I'm about to say.
I'm following every rule there is.
You know, in foreign countries, they typically don't hold people in prisons beyond 30 regardless of what they're convicted of, because the research shows that folks that are 30 or older tend to, even if they've been acted in criminal fashion before, it drops off. I mean, how old are you now? Like 52? Yeah. So, I mean, you're well past the age where you should be beyond this crap,
Yeah,
right? You have to be the better person.
You're right.
Okay, here's what we're doing. 90 days in jail, 83 suspended, credit for 7 already served. 1 year probation. She's to undergo both mental health and drug and alcohol assessments and follow through with any recommendations regarding counseling. She's to abide by the terms of any CPO. I'm going to put down GPS at discretion of the adult probation department. And here's what I'll tell you about probation, Ms. Sherman. They can be your best friends, believe it or not, because if there's truly some sort of conspiracy on the other side of this controversy, they're just going to try to frame you or make you look bad. If you're doing everything you're supposed to do, your PO is going to be the first one to defend you and say, nope, she's doing great. And that's not true. You don't do what they ask you to do, they're going to be much more inclined to believe that, whether it's true or not. So keep that in mind. You're to maintain suitable employment and follow any of the rules the probation department sets. Fines $200, costs will be assessed, we'll give you time to pay. Now, you have the right to have a notice of appeal filed on your behalf within 30 days of today's date. You have a right to obtain a transcript of the trial and any other relevant proceedings for the purposes of pursuing an appeal. You have the right to be represented by an attorney throughout the course of your appeal. If you qualified as indigent, and I'm mindful of the fact that you did for trial counsel, you could be eligible, or you could have counsel appointed to represent you and pursue your appeal at no cost, as well as to obtain the transcripts at public expense. So, that being said, if the parties think it's necessary, and it doesn't have to be as formal, but maybe we might schedule a phone conference to discuss the remaining case after Ms. Diatley's provided the relevant casework that case law that she's found, and we can have further discussions about how we're going to handle that matter. So, Ms. Sherman, this is over. It's done with. Other than an appeal, you can't change anything that happened here. So you can only go one direction in life, and that's forward. Your forward path needs to be far, far away from any of them. Okay?
I have another case.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about the allegation is Facebook postings directed at directly the protected party. That's the allegation, and we're not going to talk about it anymore. Ms. Diatley, anything else?
Am I allowed to get a subpoena for the?
You can talk to your attorney about that. Okay.
I already talked to her. I know that. I'm talking about appealing this case. Isn't that what you just said?
Why would you do that?
Well, you guys can discuss this all after we recess, but Ms. Diatley, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Anything else, Mrs. Moore?
No, Your Honor.
All right, very well. This court stands in recess.
All rise.